What is going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 5 of the Littleroot Record. I'm your host, Ro, and today I'm joined by one of my dear friends, a member of Rhode Island VGC, and Worlds qualifier, Chase Mateo. Chase, how are you?
I am doing great. I am so happy to be talking to you, my friend, tonight on this glorious evening, and I'm ready to talk some Pokemon.
Yeah, and specifically, we're going to be talking about your journey this season. This is your first season playing VGC, and in this year, you got your Worlds invite at the Indianapolis Regionals. So, congratulations to that. Before
Thank
we
you,
dive
thank
into
you.
that, though, like let tell the people about yourself. How'd you get into Pokemon? How'd you get into VGC? Other things, whatever
Yeah,
you want to say.
absolutely. So, I've played Pokemon basically since I have a memory of anything. My whole life, I grew up playing with my friends. VGC in particular, I might have heard about like the challenge or in 2009 or something like that, but the first time I really picked up on VGC was I used to when I was younger just like go on the Pokemon website all the time. And I remember in 2010 after Ray Rizzo won Worlds, just logging on and seeing him and reading about him winning the 2010 World Championship, which was his first of three in a row, and just thinking it was the coolest thing ever. And I remember ever since then I really wanted to get into VGC. But even though now I'm a proud member of Rhode Island VGC, I grew up in Maine. Um, and there were no locals and no regionals or anything near there. And growing up, I was really into hockey. And I just, even though I begged my parents to bring me to like the Massachusetts regionals and a regional like once a year, it was really difficult. So I never had the chance to really play VGC other than like games against my friends and some online. Um, but yeah, that's kind of like the Ray Rizzo kind of got me to the VGC. And then from there, I just always followed it, but never really could play it competitively until after college, really.
Okay. And so you graduate. You're like, this is the time. I know you graduated around COVID-ish. Um, were you an active player during the Generation 8 online circuit, or did you still wait around?
Yeah, so I'd say I started get like playing online and trying to learn more about the game around Gen 8.
Okay.
I was planning on like I lived in Japan for 4 years, and then I might have stayed there, but I didn't because of COVID. I moved back to the US in 2020, and then I was thinking of starting going to my first regional in 2020, but we know everyone knows what happened there, and everything
Yep.
got canceled for a while. And then when I kept playing online and like building teams and trying rental teams and playing in that, but I didn't really. When 2022 circuit came around, it was still on Sword and Shield, and I was kind of done with the format and just I think it was mostly a double restricted format,
It
and
was.
I just wasn't really into it. So I decided I'd wait till Scarlet and Violet, and then when I saw the season schedule, um, I saw there was one in Hartford, which at the time I was living in Rhode Island, and decided to go to it and see how I liked it. That was towards the end of the season. It was May 2023, I believe.
Yes, it was
Um,
May 20th.
yeah, and before I wanted to dive headfirst and see if how far I wanted to go, I really want to see if I would just enjoy going to them because I'd never been to a major before or a local before. I just always, for really like over a decade, just been following the scene and playing online. So I really want to see how much I would enjoy it. And it was really one of like the best days of my life. I had so much fun. I brought a fun team with like Belly Bowl and Palafin, and um, one of my best friends from New York City also came up and supported me. And I went 5-4, which was I didn't need CP. It was all really just for fun. I didn't get CP, but I was happy to go positive. Um, and then so after that, I knew I definitely wanted to go for Worlds the next year. So right when they announced the circuit, I signed up for Pittsburgh and kind of got to work there.
Yeah, so you went, I mean, me following your season, you've been to a lot of the majors this year. Do you want to just tell everyone what events you've been able to go to during your quest to get a Worlds invite?
Yeah, so talking just about my majors, I started at Pittsburgh and I made my first day two, which was awesome. And I went top 32 there. That was huge for me to I knew I wanted to make Worlds, but that was a huge confidence boost, but also just like a good start to the season because that was the first CP event of the year.
Hmm.
Um, And then I went to our locals for the next like 2 months, and I bubbled so many events. We
Yep.
have so many good players. It's like
Too
there's a
many.
lot of regions. Yeah, we have so many regional champions, people that make day two every event, people that cut regionals, and then even the people that aren't like going for their world's invites are still incredible players. Yeah, like I'm
Kind
going up
of.
against you. It's not easy. There's no easy games.
No.
Um, so I learned a lot from those 2 months. Even though I did really well at a major event, the local scene were really tough for me. So I only got a little bit of CP during those couple months. And then I went into San Antonio coming and really wanted to go day two again because that's the kind of standard I had set for myself. And I started 5-2 and finished 5-4. So I still got some CP there, but I was pretty disappointed with how the end of my run went. It was against bad matchups, but that's just an excuse. Um, and kind of during Reg E, which was basically from after Pittsburgh through San Antonio, I'd kind of tried out so many different archetypes that San Antonio was just like another archetype that I kind of played. So with Reg F, which started in January, I really wanted to kind of find one archetype I liked and stick with it. So I went to Charlotte, which was only a couple weeks after, or 2 or 3 weeks after San Antonio. And I started 0-2, and I was like, crap, like I'm kind of not doing great. But I finished 6-3, and I really pulled back that run, and I was a couple of games off. I think I got out, went to X3 at round 7 or 8 against a good player that ended up making day two. So I was close to making day two. And I was really happy to pull it back and mentally and go 6-3 at that event and get some CP. But because of how large the event was, I still only got 30 CP. So I
Yeah.
went 60 from Pittsburgh, 30 from San Antonio, 30 from Charlotte. Um, and then after that, I went to Knoxville in February, and I brought this same team as Charlotte, except I dropped Hisuian Arcanine for Ogerpon Hearthflame.
Now this
And
was the
mhm,
just to give like some because I insight this was the Ursaluna team that you were running, the Blood Moon Ursaluna.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So just a little insight. I was also Chase's coach for Team Rest of New England USPA, and during this time, everyone in New England, as I've said in the pod, proper was either running Ursaluna or Blood Moon Ursaluna or Gouging Fire. There was nothing else.
Yeah.
And I remember a week before you went to Knoxville, and we were at a local. I think I bubbled, you scrubbed out. Zuh who went top
Oh yeah, that was
16.
that was the Plainville one, right?
Yeah, at Plainville. Yeah, we again talk about like everything.
Yeah.
Everyone like almost everyone scrubbed out who was like the high level, and I remember telling you like you're fine next week. You're getting all the bad vibes out, and you got the bad vibes out in Knoxville. If you want to like dive a little deeper on that run, that was the moment I was super proud of you.
Yeah, so just talking more about that Plainville local, it was kind of insane. Jay Zhang, he had come off back-to-back top 16s at massive major events. And then he went to this local and went 0-4 and then got the bye, so went 1-5, which was just
Yep.
like absolutely absurd for a player of his caliber, a regional champion from 2022. Like, and that was my worst local of the year as well. I forget if I went 0-2 to 3-2 or 0-3 to 2-3, but it doesn't
I
really
think
matter. I
yeah.
did terribly. Um, and I ended still stuck with those same six because I felt confident with them and comfortable with it. And my Knoxville run, anytime I don't make day two, at this point, I'm still kind of bittersweet, but I had a really good run and played really good players. I ended up going 6-3. I lost my winning in to a Gallo Orbea, who's a really good player from Colombia, or Ecuador, excuse me. And he actually just went top 8 at the special event in Colombia, though, yesterday. But he's a really great player, and he was a really good guy. But I played Brady Smith round 5, I think, and I beat Brady, who got second at which regional did he get second at?
Um, they're all of them have flown,
Oh
and
yeah, no, he got second at
he
a
got second
regional
in
not so long
yeah,
after.
in a
Um,
regulation F regional.
right, and I won Brady Smith, and my reward was playing Ashton Cox, who also an incredibly good player. And that was a 50-50 at the end of game 3. I was really proud of how I played that. And then I won my next 2 rounds and then lost my win in. So I went 6-3, but because I had good res, I went into top 64, which was 50 CP. And I was really proud of that run, and I played really good Pokemon that day. And the next day I went 5-2 at the MSS and got some good points there too. So I felt really, and after that, with some locals and points I got in between, that put me over 300 CP. So I was feeling really good. So that was the 1, 2, 3, 4th major. And then from there, I got some more CP from locals, and I was at around 430 heading to the EUIC.
Yep.
And so I brought the same team. I'd made some adjustments. The biggest adjustment, honestly, was taking care of Raging Bolt, because my team's definitely was really weak to Raging Bolt and kind of those standard balance teams, which European players favored. And so I had a stomping tantrum to my Hearthland Ogerpon, dropping Follow Me, which I didn't want to do, but it was definitely the right call. And I started 4-1 at UIC, and I was so close at that point. I knew I needed to win at least 2 more to guarantee points, but UIC, we had almost 1,000 players, and the kicker for 512 getting CP is 1,024, so we barely missed it. And the demand was there. It was just there wasn't enough. They didn't open enough seats. And then so round 6, I was playing a really weird Como team. I crushed my opponent game 1, and then I didn't respect the Como Klinger's Soul. It was a really weird set. Game 2, and then game 3, I kind of clicked my buttons too fast and I didn't think through. I definitely think I could have won game 3, but didn't. It was a really cool team, though, my opponent played. And then, so now I'm 4-2. And then the next round, I'm playing Zhejiang, who I fly to London to play someone that I drive to locals. Yep. And he knew my exact team going in, and he's such a amazing person. But he was playing Galarian Zapdos. It was basically a balanced team, but he threw Galarian Zapdos on there, and I kept thinking he was going to bring Galarian Zapdos, so I kept prepping for that, and then he won that really easily on it. And so then I went from 4-1 to a really quick 4-3. And then I won my next round to go, and then so at that point I was out of day 2, but I still had points to play for, because if I went 6-3, I would have gotten 80 points, which would have been my invite. But instead, I won round 8, a really close set, and then I lost round 9 to a really good Italian player. So I finished 5-4, and I finished like 300th-ish. So I got nothing. The last game, it's crazy though, because me and my opponent both knew, we were like, one of us is most likely going to leave with 80 points, and one of us is most likely going to leave with nothing.
Yeah.
So it was kind of crazy, but the stakes of that game. But I ended up losing, and that was my first major of the season, not getting any points, and I was really beat up about it, because I flew to London. I thought I'd played really well, and I ended up with nothing. And as I think I was telling you before the call started, I basically got back to my hotel room and kind of reassessed the rest of my season. So I signed up for Orlando on the spot, which originally I didn't think I was going to be able to go, but my work schedule got switched up. So I signed up for Orlando. I signed up for the Puerto Rico special event. Because the thing about Pokemon is nothing's guaranteed. And even though I'd gotten points at my 4 regionals I'd been to that year, they were all really close sets, and like very easily I could have gone home with nothing. And so signed up for Orlando, which was just the week after UIC. And the whole week I was trying to think of like a new team, because I was really upset with the Blood Moon Tail Room team that I had been playing for months at that point. Because I felt good about it, but I was really disappointed that I didn't get points at UIC. So I thought I was going to bring something else, but in the end, I ended up bringing the same 6 that I brought to EUIC, I brought to Knoxville. And I had a great run, and I made day 2 again at Orlando, which I was really pumped about after a really disappointing day finish at UIC, to make day 2 again, which had been another goal of mine. for the season because I made day two at my first event. I didn't want it to be the last time I made day two. So I was really happy about that. And also, so many of my friends or so many people in New England popped off at Orlando. So I was really, I wouldn't have gone if I'd done well at EUIC. So it's kind of that blessing in disguise, you could say. My major season would have been mostly over if I finished at EUIC, but instead I got to go to Orlando and see Zach Weed get top eight, another member of USPA Team New England.
Yep.
Um,
Our boy Wonder.
our boy Wonder. That was just such an incredible run. I was so happy to be there for that. Um, Jacob Lintner, he got top 16. It was his first day two and ever, and he had an insane run in day two as well. Finishing 12-3 and finishing in the top 16, which was incredible.
Yeah.
Sam Pletcher, also one of our good friends, he finished 6-3 and got points that he needed to stay on track for his World's invite.
Yep.
And a lot of our friends.
Yeah. You had Stefan Mott top. I think
Yep.
like Stefan Mott, Paint. Yeah. So him, Yi Chun, Dawei, Zay. Like
Yep.
I think it was 6 of the top 20 were New England players in Orlando.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was, yeah, and I think I think close to double digits, if not double digits, for day two, including you. So one of the most dominant regional performances for a region, and very proud to be watching it and watching you. That was one of those things, especially like from watching from the couch. Watching you, Jacob, I'm just pretty much tracking points. I'm like, okay, they're so close. They're so close. They're so close. And sadly, after your day two, you still had to do one more. And this one you were actually signed up for, which is Indianapolis. So
right.
Let's go a little more in depth with this one. Why don't you talk us through your process on choosing a team for this last major, which was your I'm going to get my invite major?
Yeah. So just closing out briefly, Orlando, like you mentioned, it was a massive regional as well, where people in day two, some people didn't even get 50 CP, which is crazy. I finished in the top 64, so I got 50 CP, and I was at that point 8 CP away, which was just so close, but still, I'm not there yet. And so going into Indy, brand new format, single restricted. I'd never competitively played with restricted before, but my favorite restricteds have always been Kyogre, Dialga, and Lugia. And of those three, only one is really decent, being Kyogre. So I also love water types. I will never go to an event without a water type. I love water types, and I love making that kind of a central piece of my team. And Raging Bolt and Ogerpon Water are definitely made it harder throughout the year with the addition of those Pokemon, but I kind of stuck with it. And a lot of people didn't think Kyogre would be good, but Orlando, I was at dinner with a bunch of the people from New England, and we were just running some of the calcs with Terra Water, Mystic Water, Helping Hand, Kyogre, and it just is such a nuke. And so I was pretty sure I wanted to bring Kyogre. And I've been running Farigiraf for so long that priority blocking to me is like almost just a must. Like it's just become so nice to have. And with Thunderclap on Raging Bolt around, it made a lot of sense. And so, but Farigiraf really wasn't doing any damage. It was just fulfilling that one role. So Serena was kind of filled that role much better because it had Power Whip for the grass coverage and Triple Axle, which was just so clutch into like getting Oko's. They don't Oko, but they help KO with a little bit of chip on like Rillabooms and Raging Bolts and opposing Urshifu and Kyogre. So Serena was a really big part of the team. Urshifu, I had been running Mystic Water the entire year, basically, but I switched to Scarf because Adamant with 252 speed is 1 point ahead of Calyrex Shadow Rider, which everyone going into Indy thought would be the best mon ever.
Yeah.
It didn't turn out that way at Indy. It's still a good mon, but that was really important for that matchup to be able to outspeed that, because a lot of times the Cali S teams would also have tornadoes. So just setting up tornado or tailwind with my own tornadoes wouldn't really be enough. And also, a lot of them run sash, so um, getting surgeon strikes off on that was just really important. Um, and I kind of the last two Mons on my team. So at that point, I had Torn, Kyogre, Serena Urshifu. The last two Mons were definitely the ones that I had the most trouble finding, but I ended up adding Chen Pao just for extra damage, and also it's really good into a lot of threats. Sucker Punch is really huge. It's good into some of my weaker matchups like Koraidon and Miraidon and Raging Bolt. And then I added the last slot. I kept switching out. I wasn't sure. But I ended up going with King Gambit because it was really good for out underspeeding some common threats even in Trick Room. And I gave it the safety goggles so it could really be like a nuisance for forcing a Terra on Cali Ice and not being able to get spored and kind of just do damage while I'm kind of trying to maneuver my way outside of Trick Room. And that's kind of how my indie team kind of finished up.
Yeah, and the run itself, if you want to go a little more into that, how it felt playing in your first restricted format and in an event that held so much gravity for you.
Yeah, I knew with HCP away and a lot of events to come that I shouldn't feel too much pressure, and my goal for the weekend was to get the invite though, but I also really wanted day two. I wanted to get my first back-to-back day two. So I started off really hot with some really tough matchups. I faced a Lunala team with Chad Water Ogre Pond, and they played really well, and I had to maneuver really well around that matchup. And so I won my round one, which I was really happy with, and then I ended up winning rounds 2 and 3. So a really good start, 3-0. And then I went 3-1 against Koraidon, which I definitely didn't play my best. My opponent played really well and made hard reads, and they deserved that win. And then I ended up winning, go 4-1. At that point in my head, I knew basically half the 5-4s based on the size of the regional would get points. So in my mind, I'm like, just get one more win, one more win. And so then I think I lost, so I was at 4-2. So I was this cycle again, and then I ended up winning, so I went 5-2. And then I was like, okay, I got my invite. Let's get day two. Round 8, I thought I was in a guaranteed win position, where I Origin Pulsed in the rain, Terra Water Kyogre against the Cali Eye that was Terra Water. And then that just did a little bit, and they high horsepower to get rid of it. And then I Kowtow Cleave twice, and it didn't KO. So I thought Origin Pulse, Terra Water in the rain, plus 2 Kowtow Cleaves would be enough for a Terra Water Cali Eye, but it was not. It was so bulky. So I didn't make day 2. That mon is just insane.
That is absolutely nuts to hear. I know, like with the Terra Water, it is resisted, but when you add in all of those multipliers and then the two Kowtow Cleaves on top of it, like it ate 3 attacks, and one of those attacks is 99% of the Pokemon in the metagame do not live a Mystic Water, Terra Water, Origin Pulse in the rain.
I don't mind firing that off against like a Raging Bolt, Rillaboom. Like it, no matter what mon is in front of that, it is not going to take it well, even if it resists it. So I was disappointed by that, but then I ended up pulling through and finishing 6-3, which I was happy about. So I finished top 128. So I got more than enough CP to qualify for Worlds. So I was really happy with that. And again, a lot of New England players did well. We had a lot get championship points that day. Chris got his first ever positive. He went 5-4, which was great. So yeah, it was really, I was bittersweet, honestly, because I wanted my back-to-back day 2, but I was really just, it was one of those things where it's like, okay, I can breathe. I got my invite, but at the same time, it hadn't really sunk in.
Yeah. And I'm hoping you tell me at this point, it's sort of started to sink in. It's been about a week or so since it's been finalized. And through all of this, through all of the majors, the travel, everything, um, first of all, what is your biggest takeaway from this World's Grind for your first season?
Um, Definitely just I've always been kind of really competitive, and so I think I would always tell myself this no matter like whether normally it was hockey, but I think a lot of my kind of mental from hockey kind of bleeds over to Pokemon, which sounds funny, but it's just true. Like never get too high, never get too low. Um, there were so many locals where I was just like, how am I going to go to Worlds if I can't even get points at this local? Um, but and then don't get too high like when you do really well or win an event or like uh, and always kind of respect your opponents. I know people say like respect your opponents. There's different levels to that, like, but no matter who you play, don't just assume it's an auto win because really anything can happen in Pokemon, and you see the best of the best players go 5-4 at events all the time.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I don't know. My biggest takeaway is you're not going to get your Worlds invite overnight unless you're one of the best of the best. So don't compare yourself to others, I think is really good advice. Because I remember in December, there were players already getting their invites like Justin Tang and James Evans and the best players in the world. And you're like, oh my God, these players are getting their World invites. And I'm only at 100 CP, um, like right before San Antonio, which was crazy, but you just got to stick to the process. And like, I think another big thing is if you're serious about making Worlds, it's huge to plan it out before the start of the season. I went into the season with the goal to make Worlds, and um, I'd set out like I was like I'm going to go to these regionals, and I'm going to go to the locals, and if I perform this well, I will reach my invite. Um, I ended up doing better at some events, obviously, and worse at other events. Um, Originally, I thought I was going to definitely need points from an IC, and I wasn't sure. I went to 6 regionals this year, and I was able to get points from all 6, which I was really proud of. But yeah, basically, I think if you're serious about making a Worlds run, it really helps to plan it out before the season. And also, I think I'm just kind of going off on a tangent here, but I started off the season not knowing anyone other than like the people I'd followed in the community. Um, and I made so many awesome friends. And when I started, like, I didn't really know how many friends I was going to make or what the process would look like. I wanted to make Worlds. But I made so many awesome friends, and I definitely think you should lean into that. Regionals became so much more fun when you had friends to talk to between rounds and go out to dinner with and support. Um, so some of my highlights of my season are watching like Sam Pletcher go day 2 and Jacob go day 2, Zach make top 8, and like just my friends pop off. Those are some of my highlights of my season, honestly.
Yeah. And my next question, and if you want to add on to it, was going to be, what do you suggest for people who want to make their Worlds run? I know you kind of already answered that, but if there's any other insight you want to give, because I'm sure many people watching this are thinking, "Hey, I want to do a Worlds run next year." So what would you tell them? Just single thing.
Yeah, I think if you want to, I think, like I said, plan it out before the start of the season. Know it's going to be really challenging. I think my biggest prep, I played a lot of Showdown. I think, and when you lose, you really have to evaluate why did you lose, and um, I think that's a lot. If you just throw off your losses and um, you're not going to become much of a better player. You really have to evaluate why you lose, why you lost, and learn from it. Even when I went to locals and didn't get points from them, I always tried to take some positives out of it. There's still some moments from locals this year that have stuck with me as learning lessons. Like just off the top of my head, like I remember there was one MSS where yeah, I think it was round 4 or 5, and one play I really like to make is uh, rain dance, or I've liked to make at certain points of the season, was just rain dance Aqua Jet with my Urshifu because I could always just uh, do tons of damage against something that had chip on it or pressure a KO on something. But I remember I didn't account for a speed drop, so the sun was still up. My Urshifu went before my Tornadus, so it just cost me the game. And just little things like that will stick with you to like remember those little changes within the game state and take the full time, because very rarely does the game go to time. So take your time before you click in your buttons. I think you need to grind a lot of the game. I think you need to not just say, woe is me. There's a lot of luck in the game, but if you want to become a better player, there's opportunities to do so.
Yeah, those, and I've heard those, like what you just said. That's what a lot of the top players, including many of our friends, have said, at least to me and others, is like it's a game of luck, but as long as you do what's in your control and you learn from those moments that are out of your control, you're going to be fine at the end. And clearly, you were very fine at the end, locking in your invite with a regional and NAIC to spare. So, last question. This is something I ask all of our guests on the Littleroot record. What is your favorite thing to cook?
It's a great question. I think my favorite thing to cook would probably be some homemade pizza. I don't think.
Yep.
I know there's some. I know Tom, one of our great TOs. He is Italian and makes some pretty good pizza. I don't know if I'm on his level, but that would probably, if I had to pick one thing, that'd probably be my favorite thing as well to cook.
Is it the homemade family recipe sauce?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Next time I'm in the office for work, I will be hitting you up for some.
Oh, absolutely, pizza. Absolutely.
Chase, thank you very much for joining us. If you want to give any shout outs, your Twitter handle, any other social media, this is your time.
Yeah, shout outs just to everyone in New England, my people that I'm always talking to, and shout out to Team New England, everyone. When Team New England got announced, or when USPA got announced, I thought it was going to be like every state. So I was like, oh, I can make Team Rhode Island. But then when I saw that it was Team New England, I was like, oh, I have no chance. So I really appreciate getting the opportunity to play on that team, and I think I learned a lot, and it was really good practice for me, and I definitely hope to play next season.
You will.
Yeah, thank you. But yeah, everyone in New England, there's too many people to name. Everyone in Rhode Island, my boys back home in Maine, who I started playing and loving this game with. And yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a really great chat, and I really appreciate you letting me on.
Of course, and Twitter for anyone who wants to follow you. Oh yeah,
it's Maine, like the state _ Marsh Tomp.
Yep, best starter.
Best starter.
And you can follow me and the rest of the Littleroot Lessons family at LR Lessons. Please make sure to like and subscribe to get notifications for all of our videos, including the new scripted Genlock run that Carter's doing. We're doing some Draft League stuff with Jay. Laddering could be coming back soon. And of course, following our Littleroot record interviews and the podcast itself. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.